Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to our program Spiritual Insight. And again, I send my condolences to all the Mu'mineen, Mu'minat, all the lovers of Ahlebait, all the lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, about his martyrdom. Today is a sorrowful day for us. Yesterday was a sorrowful day for us, and the night before was a sorrowful night for us. We all commemorate the sadness these 3 nights have for us. This is a very sad days for us, the followers of Ahlul-Bayt, that love Amir al-Mu'mineen and who understand Amir al-Mu'mineen as a person of high integrity, a person of high honesty, a person that always gave his life and support to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Deen of Islam. These are the 3 nights, the 3 days that we commemorate his remembrance. We commemorate his shahadat, his martyrdom, his life that he gave, all his from his birth till his shahadat. We commemorate this, we remember this, and we mourn and we discuss with one another all aspects of his life, so that we remember him and we honor him. And we honor him. By honoring him, we honor Rasulullah. And by honoring Rasulullah, we honor all the Anbiya and all the prophets that have come. Today, I don't have my guest as usual, Brother Jafar. There's something happened with him. Inshallah, I hope he gets better and he joins us in the next program. But we will continue our discussions as usual. However, I wanted to today discuss a little bit about Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, because he is the root of our religion. He is the soul of our religion. He is the one individual that his Prophet and his Allah would love him the most. No one would understand Amir al-Mu'mineen other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Prophet, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no one would understand the depth of Rasulullah other than Amir al-Mu'mineen and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These two personalities are very unique personalities. One of Amir al-Mu'mineen's name is Siraj al-Mazin. What does that mean? What does that word mean? Imam Ali has a lot of titles, but what does that title mean? So if you read in one of the books that Bakr al-Majlisi wrote, you will see that he brings in a narration from one of the ajinnas. Ajinnas are the jinns that were created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before mankind came into this earth. So before us, we had other creations like the jinns, and these jinns existed. So one of these jinns, it was under the elks of the shayateen. He was the son of Iblis himself. One day, in the presence of Nabi Allah, our Rasulullah Prophet, a person entered the masjid, Masjid al-Nabawi, and the ashab felt threatened by this presence. This being was very huge, was very muscular. His body was quite menacing for the ashab at that time. So the ashab kind of panicked and they were a bit worried that they had this fear in their heart. So Rasulullah, our Prophet, says to the ashab, my ashab, don't worry, this person has something to do with me, and just give him way. So this person crossed the line where in the Masjid al-Nabawi, and he came next to Rasulullah, and he said, Rasulullah, I have a question for you. Would you be able to answer my question? So all the ashab are looking at the Prophet and this individual. They are in shock, in awe, in terror of this individual. They feel as if their soul is fearing the situation where he is, where they see such an individual. They didn't realize that this individual is from the shayateen. He is the son of Iblis. So Rasulullah says, would you like to introduce yourself, or would you want me to introduce you? So he says, I will introduce myself. He says, I am so and so, the son of Iblis from this generation, and I have come to ask your Prophet a question. So, Ya Nabi Allah, this is my question. The question is such: who is this individual that always came and helped the prophets? Who is this individual? We have seen from the time of Adam and the Habut of Adam, the descent of Adam. So from the descent of Adam till the time of you being the prophet, we have seen a certain individual who has always helped them. And we would like to know, I would like to know who this person is. We always thought that this helper of this prophet would be the next prophet. However, this didn't come to true. And we know that you are the last prophet. And therefore, after you, there is no prophet that will take your place, that will be your successor as a prophet. Therefore, who was that individual? When Adam came, we saw that individual. When my father, Iblis, tried to cause problems and hardship and difficulty for Hazrat Adam, we saw that individual come and help Hazrat Adam. Then came after Hazrat Adam, Hazrat Nuh. And again, Hazrat Nuh had problems, and this individual would come and help the prophets. And we thought this would be the next prophet after Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. Then after Hazrat Nuh came Hazrat Isa, Hazrat Yusuf, Hazrat Yaqub, and all the prophets. And we always try to disturb, annoy, cause difficulties, hardship on their path. And this individual will come and help them at their very most needed help. Therefore, who is this individual? Now that you are the last prophet, Adam came, Nuh came, Ibrahim came, all of the prophets came, Isa came, Moses came, and we saw this person always helping them, being their Nasir, helping them in every situation. But now we do not see him. Where is he? We know that you are the last prophet. So the prophet looks at this individual and says, if I introduce him, would you recognize him? That entity says, why not, Prophet? We have seen him from the time of the descent of Adam till Isa. We have seen him, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And now that you are here, we do not see him. Who is he? And who was he? I want to know about him. So in the Masjid al-Nabawi, next to the Prophet was sitting Amir al-Mu'mineen with his head down and his legs crossed and his hands on his legs, arms across his legs, and his chin was down. So Rasulullah says, if I introduce you to that person, would you recognize it? So Rasulullah, our Prophet, raises his hand and puts it on Amir al-Mu'mineen's chin and raises the chin up. As Rasulullah raises the chin up, he says, this is my brother, this is my wasi, this is my successor. He is the helper of helpers. He is the leaders of leaders. He is the givers of givers. He is the door of my knowledge. And as the Prophet introduces Amir al-Mu'mineen to him, the jinn that is looking at Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Wallahi, Ya Rasulullah, this is that person who is the helper of all prophets. Whenever the prophets had problem, this is the individual that helped them. Ya Nabi Allah, who is he? Then Nabi Allah introduces him. He says, this is my wasi, this is my brother, this is my Aqeel. He is the one who will lead after me. He is my successor. He is the first of the imams of my successorship. And then that jinn submitted to the religion of Islam. He became a Muslim, he became a mu'min, and he left the type of jinn and shayateen, and he fought in one of the wars, and he became a shaheed. So Amir al-Mu'mineen is an individual that has helped all the Ahlebait, all the prophets that have come. Not in the physical form as you see that he was during the time of the Prophet. We have a hadith and a narration from our Prophet that the Prophet says, I existed even before the clay of Adam existed. So even when there was not even the clot or the shape of Hazrat Adam, Prophet Muhammad existed, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And while Prophet Muhammad was mentioning this, from the masjid at the back, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I also existed even before the clay of Hazrat Adam existed. So they existed in a different shape and form that Allah created them. And now in this world, you see them in the form of clay. But as I have always said, dear brothers and sisters, we've always existed even before this dunya, and we will exist after this dunya. What we leave in this dunya is this flesh. This flesh rots and decays and becomes part of this dunya, this world, and our soul and our spirit, our nafs, leaves this, exits this plane and enters another dimension. Therefore, this fallacy that they say we do not exist, we die, when we die, we do not exist anymore, that's not completely true. Yes, we no longer exist in this dimension. Now we exist in the Barzakh dimension. And to prove this, we have a hadith. We have a hadith when one of the battles, or one of the wars that Rasulullah had with the kuffar of Mecca, and when they had lost the war, the kuffar of Mecca, so their bodies were lying around. So the Prophet was talking to them, and then the second Khalifa, Umar, says to the Prophet that, Ya Nabi Allah, why are you talking to them? They're all dead now. They're not alive. The Prophet says, Ya Umar, they are listening to me more better than you. They can hear me, they can see me far more better than they could see me during while they were still alive in the flesh. So that means that after our death, our soul and nafs still exist. The body has died, but not the soul. The soul never dies. The soul always exists. It's from Allah, and it returns back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the true essence of our soul, of our existence. We come from Allah and we return to Allah. That's why we say Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Our rujat, our return, is back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Amir al-Mu'mineen plays a pivotal role in our deen. Our deen is not complete if we do not believe in the imamat, if we do not believe in the vilayah. And this is also mentioned in the Quran. I will not go more into details into this, as this is not part of our program, but in respect of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, I thought a few words about his greatness, his position should be mentioned as a tabarrukun, as a little part that we can get the sawab and have this discussion of ours blessed. Now returning to our topic, the controversial topic that we were discussing, which was about homosexuality and its cause and its effects. So we have to look into the Quran, and I will explain the whole story of the Quran, and then we will see how it relates to this modern times and how us Muslims should be taking heed from this, how we should be taking guidance, and how we should look after our children and give guidance to our community and us as an individuals. So from the tafsir of the Quran, we have an understanding that certain individuals who fall into this trap are of this nature, that in their childhood they might have had some traumatic experience, or they were in a young age sexualized in a very young age. Usually youngsters that are sexualized in a young age, they have the tendency to go to the extremes because they've been harmed in the young age. And that is why it is very important to protect the innocence of our children. If you protect the innocence of the children, let the children be children. Let them be young. There's a time and place to know certain knowledges. There's a time and place. This is a natural instinct. All human beings have a natural instinct to reproduce. We do not need to let our children know at a very early age. This is what we call the danger of corrupting them. This is where when you give this kind of knowledge to a child when he's not able to understand right and wrong at the moment, how are you able to give this knowledge then when he's not prepped for it? And unfortunately, there's a sinister global plan going around the world where they want to ruin the innocence of our children. It is by this innocence that they are trying to brainwash our children into such kind of thinking. And therefore, this is how we need to avoid. Now, looking at the nation of Lut, how were they? In the beginning, the nation of Lut was a very good nation. They were so social that they would care about one another. They would make sure that none of the individuals in that nation was homeless. Each person had a home, and they all worked together. They were such socially connected with one another. Their pain, if one individual's pain was in pain, they would all feel his pain. This is how this nation was. Unfortunately, Shayateen Iblis did not like this progress of that nation, and he wanted to inflict them into some kind of problem. So he saw one of their weaknesses, and the weakness was that this nation became stingy. They became stingy in their lifestyle. They would not give the khums and the zakat. They would not give the poor rate. They started to become stingy. And this led into a big problem. The reason is because an individual, we have a hadith narration that Qawm cause of them, the root cause of them becoming, uh, having homosexual tendencies was because of them having the khaslat of being stingy, the characteristics of being stingy. And that led them into that direction. Now, how and why? What was the cause and the reasons behind this? This is where we need to find out. So the cause was stinginess. The root cause was stinginess. And now, what are the characteristics of stinginess? So when you are stingy, you do not want to spend money on other people because you feel stingy. You don't like spending that money. You feel it's as a burden. And when if two people have to get together in a marriage, one of them has to spend, and you have to spend money on your spouse because it's the man's responsibility in the norm, according to normal nature. A man is a sponsor, is a provider, is a supporter of his partner. But if that man becomes stingy, how would he behave? Well, if he has the characteristics of being stingy, he would not like to spend money on his family because he has the stinginess inside him. Therefore, he would avoid to get married with his spouse because he understands that if I get married to my spouse, to my partner, then I have responsibility. I will have to work for them. I will have to spend money for them. So these people were miserable. They were misers. And this misery caused them into this problem. And they went into an extent. So what happened? Once they had these characteristics of being stingy, then Iblis had to find them an alternative because human beings cannot live without sexuality. We all have this innate instinct in us. The instinct to reproduce is in all of us, and therefore we cannot avoid this. So Iblis had to now find an alternative for that nation. He had now trapped them into being stingy. Now he had to find an alternative so that the individual would not get married. So this is the story how it goes as far as I've read in Qasasul Anbiya, that once there was this boy, Shaitan came in the form, Iblis came in the form of a small boy, and he would scare the people of Lut about, he would damage their crops, he would damage their resources. And so the people of Lut were getting frustrated by this damage. Every time they were having loss in their crops and they were having loss in their construction work. So they wanted to find out who this culprit is. And after some time, they caught this boy who was actually Iblis in the form of a boy. During previously before before Rasulullah, Iblis was able to take shape and form into human in any shape and form. He would be able to show himself. So to Qawm Lut, he showed himself as a boy, a young boy. And so when they caught this individual, they imprisoned him. So they imprisoned the individual and they put him in jail. Well, there wasn't a jail at that time, but some type of prison. So they had to have a guard to protect and keep him secure in that prison. So they appointed one of the individuals from Qawm Lut, and they said, "You will protect him." So what I'm telling you is the genesis or the beginning of why Qawm Lut became what it became. So this guard was guarding this boy so that the next day judgment can be passed as to what to do with this person, to execute this boy or to keep him in prison, whatever the judgment would be. So this individual guard was protecting him at night and he was awake. So this boy starts crying and he's crying and weeping. So this human being, this person that is guarding him, the guard asks the boy, "Why are you crying?" And the boy says, "I used to miss my parents, I used to miss my father, and he used to hug me and sleep with me, and he would cuddle me, and I would feel comfort. Now that I'm all alone in this prison, no one's there, I feel lonely. That's why I'm crying. I'm missing my father. And he starts crying like this. So that God feels sympathy for him, feels mercy, and then he says, okay, I will, don't worry, I will sleep with you, I will guard you, I will protect you, and I'll hug you. So that was a trap. It was a trap for that person. And while the God innocently, as a father or a brother, tries to comfort the boy, and the boy starts doing some funny acts. Now you can understand what I mean by funny acts. And the individual is off guard. I'm telling this as a narration that I've read in the book of Qasasul Anbiya. And this individual is is not aware of this act. And because of this act, he feels pleasure. And after pleasure, he has that pleasure, and therefore he falls asleep. The next day when the guard wakes up, there is no longer that boy in the prison. The boy has escaped. It was Iblis, Malun, it was Iblis. However, that experience that the guard had felt was now in his psyche. And then he shares it with another god. So the next day, the people come and ask him, "Where is the boy? What happened to the boy? Where is he gone?" The god says, "I don't know." But then the god explains what happened. So they ask him the details. They say, "Well, this is the first time, because when we read in the Quran, Prophet Lut says to the nation, 'You commit an indecency that's never been committed before,' and therefore this narration also justifies that, explains that the God says, 'This is the first time I experienced this.' And so this was the first time that nation got exposed to such a sin. That was the first time. And then then this information spread. So this bad news, this bad act, this Kabi act spread across the nation. And they all started talking about this. They said, well, this happened. There was this man, he was guarding this little boy, and the boy did this to him, and the boy escaped. And now this happened. And so they all were curious about this experience. And because of this experience, one tried it with the other one, and this disease started to spread. It spread throughout the whole nation. So when Hazrat Ibrahim was passing through this valley with his nephew, Prophet Lut alayhi salam, they saw that this society was now involved in this disease of homosexuality. And hence Prophet Ibrahim leaves Prophet Lut to guide this nation. And Prophet Lut guides this nation 30 years. 30 years Prophet Lut tries to give them guidance, give them guidance, help, and support in getting them out of this, to to pull them out of this mess that they are in, this difficulty they are stuck in. And 30 years of his lifetime he's trying to help them, but the nation no longer takes heed to his calls. They are now so much drowned in their desires, illegitimate desires, that they don't want to even consider hearing Prophet Lut. It reaches to an extent that they want to now kill Prophet Lut. They want to hurt Prophet Lut. And this is where, if you read the Quran, you will understand as to why this has happened to Qawm Lut. So you can see, because of one wrong, bad act that Iblis planted, he planted a seed, one seed, and that seed sprouted its roots, and then it grew into a tree, a cursed tree, and Qawm Lut was a victim of that tree, and they had to pay the punishment. As I said, it was not a punishment. Every action has a reaction. If you do good deeds, you will see blessings coming towards you. Good deeds have a positive reaction. Bad deeds have a negative reaction. It is only the mercy of Allah that is a barrier holding the infliction, the catastrophe, the terror that is about to be inflicted on an individual because of his bad deeds. And this is how society is, brothers and sisters. If you look at society, this is how it is. So this is the month of Ramadan in which we should cleanse our souls if we have such diseases in our soul. We need to understand where they have stemmed from and why we are inflicted by them. Usually a person who has this infliction is because he is either too much thinking about sexuality. And the best cure for sexuality is fasting. If you fast, you calm down your nerves. You cool down the sexual fire that you have inside you. Once you cool that fire down, you're able to think straight. Fasting is the best method of cooling your desires, of cooling your urges, of cooling those hot, fiery urges that you have inside them, so that you can think straight, so that you can get help from the right sources that you need. And you have to fast from having sexual activity. So if you have those tendencies, you have to fast. If you fast, that fast will then help you and protect you and give you the strength to go on the right direction. It's just like riding a bicycle. You have to learn how to balance yourself. Do not go on the extremes, because if you go on the extremes, you are then you are then committing those sins. Those sins are committed by extremities. It is because you are no longer in balance. So you have to bring yourself into balance. Now, some brothers and sisters, if you are watching this program, you might feel confused. What is this Moulana trying to say? I'm not understanding. So what I'm trying to say is this, that if you have those tendencies, it's not because you are biologically born with this. It's just because you have done certain actions that are now making you follow those actions. And one of those actions is this, that you are either in your young age sexualized too early, and that is why you are being affected by this. And therefore, you have to calm those senses down. You have to abstain from sexual activity. You have to abstain from this. And once you abstain, naturally your body will kick in. And you have to think of the right way to obtain this pleasure. Your body is a mechanical function. Your brain is a mechanical function. You can rewire this brain's thinking. It can be rewired to want what it wants. For example, I'll give you another example. Someone might like spicy food, and they always like to eat spicy food. So wherever they go, they will prefer to have spicy food. But then they reach a place where there is no spice. What should they do then? How should they feel? Would they live without food? They would still eat food, because food is part of your nature. You have to consume to survive. And then you won't, once you reach a certain stage where you're so hungry, you're starving, you wouldn't care if it's spicy or not spicy. You would eat that food, whatever it is. And this is what you have to do to your nafs. Starve it from sexual activities to such an extent that when it does need it, you do it through the right channel. And this is how you focus your mind and your desires. Because your body will always want something, it will always desire something, but starve it like fasting. This is where we learn from our Ramadan, the month of holy month of Ramadan, that you fast your body, you fast your desires to that extent that when the next thing that you give your body, it will enjoy that. You'll realize sometimes, for example, you might crave something, but before fasting you would never crave it. But because of your fasting, you're craving it. And the same applies for all sorts of desires. Allah has just given us a blueprint that stop your eating, and you will see that how the desire of eating takes its actions. How you will now want anything to eat. Whatever we put in front of you, you will want to eat it, because that desire is now pure. It's now pure and it's raw. And now you are not selecting, oh, I want this or I prefer that. I prefer spicy food. I prefer sweet food. I prefer this. No, your preferences go away. Now it's just raw and pure desire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you. And this is the secret of controlling and balancing your life. I hope I'm able to explain this thing in the month of holy month of Ramadan. And because today is the night of Shab Qadr, Laylatul Qadr, the night of destiny, in this night you are able to pray to Allah to help you give control over your desires. And the best tool to control your desires is by fasting. Fasting not only gives you an understanding of your complexities of why you desire what you desire, but it also gives you a willpower to control that desire. Many people, um, many people in the month of Ramadan are able to free for themselves from addictions. They are able to free themselves from, for example, smoking. You'll see many cases like this. They have the desire to smoke, but then in the month of Ramadan, 30 days, they keep this habit going on, and then after 30 days they are able to keep this habit going for the whole year. Yes, each individual has a tendency to do some kind of sin. Each individual, someone might have the tendency to be jealous, for example. They have an inferiority complex inside them, and hence they feel jealousy for other people. And due to that jealousy, they will try to harm other people, or they will try to show off in front of other people because maybe during their childhood they were not being given the right attention or the love from their parents or from the people around them, and hence they have to show off. And each individual has his or her own vice that we all have to fight. And this is what we call fighting the nafs. There's jihad al nafs, and then there's the other jihad. The hardest jihad is fighting your own nafs, your own self, your own evil desires. But Alhamdulillah, this month, the holy month of Ramadan, is the best month to free yourself from your own nafs. So we can change our nafs from nafs al-ammara to nafs al-lawwama, and then from nafs al-lawwama to nafs al-mutma'inna. This is all in us. So we can do this by controlling our desires. And the best tool, brothers and sisters, are two: salah and fasting. If you keep your fast going and you keep your prayers, and what does keeping your prayers, maintaining your prayers is the real essence. Then you try to maintain your prayer. And there's a big topic about this itself. What does it mean by maintaining your prayer? So there is one is praying and then finishing your prayer, but maintaining that prayer to the next prayer. This is very important. I think we are now running out of time as well. We've only got 8 minutes. So, brothers and sisters, if you have any questions regarding this topic of Qawmi and homosexuality and its tendencies, why, what it is, what is the cause. As I said, this program is for Muslims to watch, for Muslims that are having, they are having this problem, they are having to battle the desires. They should understand where this problem started from, and how you can escape from this desire, how you can control over this desire. It's not an easy task. It takes time. You have to take the course. You have to commit yourself. It's not a one-day job. Slowly, you can free yourself from these chains. And you have to first have the right thinking. You have to have the right concept. You need to understand that this is not a biological thing inside you, that you are compelled to do this. This is a choice. It's a choice. Of course, there are preferences. Just like someone has a preference to eat salty food. Someone has a preference to eat spicy food. Someone has preference to eat a sweet food. Some have a sweet tooth. Some have a sour tooth. These are all preferences. But do those preferences dictate what you eat and why you should eat? If you realize that eating too much sweets and would cause you diabetes, would you not stop eating sweet? The same applies for other desires as well. You can control all the desires. They're all in your hand. It's just you need to have the right concept, the right motivation, a positive mindset, and then you're on your way. It's just like balancing your body. Just like balancing a bike and riding the bike, your body is just like the bike. You have to ride your body. You have to balance your body. And that's the secret in passing the exams of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and recognizing your Imam as well. Someone who is not in line or in balance with himself will not even be able to pass the sirat, the pul sirat. The sirat that we have, the bridge that we have to pass, we say it's so thin. This is the sirat that we are talking about. Your life is your sirat. Your life is that bridge that you have to go through. And some go through very fast and quickly. How? Why? And because they keep their body balanced. As long as you keep your body, your desires and everything in check and balance, you should not have any problems. Inshallah, Allah gives us a tawfiq that in these Laylatul Qadr nights, we ask Allah to give us the marifah, the willpower and the knowledge to be able to control our desires. Once you have a control over your desires, then you are now empowered to decide freely what you want in your life. You're able to then correctly desire the right things, to go towards the right path. And it is only then through the path of Ahlebait and Rasulullah that you are able to reach the qurb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain close proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is only by controlling our lower desires that we are able to really then enjoy this world and the this dunya and the akhirah as well, the afterlife as well. So, brothers and sisters, now coming back to our next part, which was culture and religion, Deen Islam. So, there are some things culturally that we practice which is not in line with our religion. There's always a choice that we need to make. And one of those choices is this, that culturally, if it is against the religion of Islam, we should not follow it. Because anything that is against the religion of Islam, that is against your values and your principles, you should not follow those things because they are harmful to society and to an individual as well. For example, one of them is the commemoration of our Imam Hussein's tragedy. How do we commemorate it? Is it in line with the way of how Ahlebait, our Prophet, commemorated it? Or is it in the way of culture? This is something that we need to ask ourselves. Are we following Rasul Khuda Deen of Islam, what Allah wants? Or are we following our desires and the culture that society puts on us? This is a question that we need to answer. For example, in this day and age, we have a culture of where women would want to lead the Salat prayer because of the culture of this day and age. But how did the Prophet do it? Did the Prophet not explain what to be done? Wasn't the seerah of the Prophet enough for us Muslims? These are the questions that we have to ask in this day and age and help our society from extreme cultures that cause damage to our iman. Anything that causes damage to our iman, that keeps us away from getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that keeps us away from having love for the Ahlebait and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then know that this is not the right culture for us. It mostly, for example, in the subcontinent, you will see that some families, those that do extreme, mourning for their imam, for example, they slash their backs by these blades, etc. Why are they doing it? Are they doing it for Ahlul Bayt? Are they doing it for the love of Ahlul Bayt? Are they doing it for the love of Imam Hussain? Or are they doing it to show off? This is the question you need to ask yourself. Are you doing this Matamdari or this Zanjizan to show it to the world? Or are you doing it to show it to Imam Hussain? If you are doing it for Imam Hussain, why are you not doing it somewhere hidden from everyone else? Some place that no one gets to see that blood. Because if this blood is holy and is sincerely for Imam Hussain, why would you do it in a public place? Why would you try to ruin or tarnish the name of Islam by doing it in a public place? I'm not saying not do it. What I'm saying is if you really want to shed a blood for Imam Hussain, then do it in your quiet home. Do it for 1 hour. Listen to the Masaib of Imam Hussain or Amir al-Mu'min or whoever, of all the Ayatollah, and then do this in a private place. But why is it that you want to show it to the world or you want to show it to your family? Because there is this culture of showing the macho man. Oh, look at this man. He's so brave that he can do Zanji Zani. He's not afraid of it. No, it's not this. This is stupidity. If you really want to shed blood for Imam Hussain, then go help in Syria. Why did you not protect the harams of Ahlul Bayt when they were in danger? Why were you not ready to give your life for that? Why were you not able to help the harams of Ayatollah? In front of you, it wasn't such long time ago that we saw how they blasted the dome of Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam. May peace be upon him. Where were you then? Where was that blood spilling for them? Why were you not ready to give your life? So no, you're shedding blood not for Imam Hussain, but for some other cause, for some other reasons. It's not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His Prophet or Imam Hussein's tragedy or for Imam Hussain. It is just to show off that you are a brave person, but it's not a show off. It's a coward way of doing this. I'm not saying that this is the wrong thing to do. I'm not judging someone, but I'm just saying you need to make sure that your intentions are right. Do not do it because culturally someone expects. Do it because religion expects you to do this. And this is where I will end the program with. We've run out of time.